Hey y'all, welcome to Back Porch Cooking and Reminiscing. I'm Roger and glad to have y'all here with us today. So today we're going to be making one of my childhood memories. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, I would go to my grandma and grandpa's house, spend a lot of time there actually. And one of the things that I just couldn't wait for my grandma to make was her fried apple pies. Now, unfortunately, nobody ever thought to write down this recipe and have it so that we could continue to make them. But over the years, I have kind of experimented with different things, and I think I've come up with what, in my mind, I think is a really, really close match to Grandma's pies. So stick with us, and I'm going to get in here and show y'all how I think Grandma made her pies. So we'll be back in just a minute and we'll get started on making Grandma's dough. All right, y'all. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make up the dough for our fried apple pies. So in the bowl here, we've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Remember, all-purpose. You don't want to use self-rising in this. Now to that, we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. All right, got that in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in 1/3 cup of shortening. Now you can use shortening or you can use lard, just whatever you got. Today I happen to have shortening, so that's what we're going to use. So now what we want to do is we want to cut all of this into this flour. And we want to get a consistency, something like just, if you were mixing up a little bit of cornbread batter and you just put a little bit of milk into it. So we're going to mash this up and get it all cutting in there. And that just takes just a minute to do that. As I said in the beginning, this was one of my favorite things that my grandma made. And I just always look forward to getting to go to her house and hoping that she had made some fried apple pies. And they are just really, really good. And in a lot of our local little convenience stores, they have people who make these fried apple pies and come around and sell them to the stores, and then they'll resell them back to people, the customers that are coming in. But never tasted one that was quite like my grandma's. All right, so we're just cutting this shortening in. We're just about there. You can kind of see how that kind of makes some lumpy pieces in there. I've referred to it as like cornbread, but I don't know. It's really not like cornbread, but it just, you want to mash up all the big pieces and just have little pieces of it left. So you just keep stirring it around, and if you see big pieces, you just keep on going with it. All right, I think we're just about there. Now, this is going to sound weird to some of you, but the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some ice water into this. All right, so we got our dough, and this is basically what we want it to look like. And it will stick to my hands a little bit, but that's okay. And what we want to do is we want to make it into a ball. I did have to go to the gloves to finish mixing this up. My shoulder was just getting to hurting too much, so did go to the gloves and finish mixing it up. And it did take probably about a cup of ice water to get it to this point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the ball like this. And we're going to come over here and we're going to put it on some saran wrap. And let's see if I can get the camera up here where y'all can see the saran wrap. There we go. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to fold this saran wrap over it. We're going to just kind of mash it out a little bit flatter. Kind of into a a flat surface. And the reason we're going to do that is because we're going to take this dough, we're going to put it in the refrigerator. We're going to let it sit for about an hour because we want the dough and the gluten and everything to get easier, and it'll make it easier to roll out. So that's all we're doing right now with the dough part of it. We're going to put this in the refrigerator at least an hour. You can leave it overnight if you want to, but do it for at least an hour. So we'll come back in a minute and we'll start on pie filling. So now we're ready to make our pie filling to go in to our fried pies. Now, back when I was a kid and my grandma would make them, she used apples off the apple tree out in the backyard, and she dried those apples and then she would use those. Well, unfortunately, we don't have an apple tree and we don't have time to dry apples. So we're going to use a apple pie filling. This is a 21-ounce can, and I'm just using one can in it. And now this has got a lot of the ingredients in it that we would normally put in there if we were using the fresher apples and all that. So you're just going to want to use this. Now you can use just this only, heat it up and get it ready, but we're going to add a few things to it to get it to the taste of what my grandma used to make. Now the first thing we're going to do, it's got cinnamon in it, but we're going to add just a little bit more cinnamon to it. So we're going to start out with about a half of a tablespoon, because like I say, it's already got some cinnamon in it, so we don't want to get too crazy with the cinnamon unless you like a lot of cinnamon. And now the other thing that we're going to use, and this is what I would call the secret ingredient to my grandma's fried pies, is allspice. So now on the allspice, we're going to go ahead and go with about a half of a teaspoon on the allspice. So we're going to put that in there, and we're going to stir it up, and then we'll taste it and just see how it tastes. Now my grandma's pie filling, when she would make it, would be a very, very rich and dark brown color. So that's what we're going for here. And we just want to stir it up. And like I say, now these apples have been cooking. I probably cooked them, started them out on about a 4, and then once I saw them starting to get hot, I turned the temperature down to about a 2 and let them just sit and kind of simmer. And that's how I was able to chop them up. I just took the spatula and kind of did this with it and chopped them up really well. So that's looking good, and it's smelling pretty good too. Not hardly as dark yet as what Grandma's was, but I want to give it a taste before I put anything else in it, just to be on the safe side. So let's give it a little taste here and see how it tastes. Yeah, still can use a little bit more of the allspice. So let's go back with another, about a quarter of a teaspoon. We'll put that in there, and then we'll stir all that back up. See if that does the trick. Yeah, it's starting to get a little browner looking now. A little more like Grandma's looked. And just stir it in, because it takes quite a bit of stirring to incorporate that allspice and the ginger, or not ginger, but cinnamon. So we want to make sure we get a good stir going on it there. Get everything incorporated, and that'll help break up those apples a little bit more. All right, let's give it another taste test and see what we got. I think it may need just a touch more sugar to be as sweet as my grandma's was. So let's get us just a little bit of sugar here. And it doesn't need much, but just a little bit to give it just a little bit more sweetness. And then I stir that all around. I say it's been a number of years since I've made these, so I'm kind of having to go from memory on the recipe here, but I will put the actual recipe into the description for you, and I'll have that recipe exactly right, so you may not have to pick and choose what you put in there or what you don't put in there. All right, one more taste. I think we may have got something here now. I'm gonna go with just a little bit more of that allspice, so that's gonna probably put us at about a teaspoon on the allspice all together. Oh yeah, I'm starting to smell that now. All right, so I think that's gonna have it there. And now we just need to get our dough out of the refrigerator, get it rolled out, and get it ready to put the filling in. All right, we got our dough out of the refrigerator, and I've cut it up into pieces there. Made one little one, just test it, see how it was going to do, and it did fine. So now we're going to roll out our dough. And now we want to get this dough really thin because we want that just to be a real thin crust on our pie. This one's going to be a little bigger than that first one I did. Like I say, I did it just to kind of see where I was at on that. Kind of made it a little smaller. And I'm not going to make y'all watch me roll every one of these out. We're going to do one or two maybe, and then I'll get the rest of them done, and we'll see how it looks. All right, that's getting pretty close to being as thin as we want it. We just don't want to tear it. You want it to be thin, but not enough that it'll tear. All right, I think that's good. So now we're going to get us some pie filling. And in big ones like this, we can put a pretty good amount of pie filling into them. Just kind of spread it around. And then we're going to just fold this over. Kind of make it look like a half moon. Then once we get that part done, what we're going to do is we're going to take our fork. We're just going to mash down right around the edges. And what we're doing is we're crimping this dough so that it will stay together when we fry it. Or at least we hope it stays together when we fry it. Because if it doesn't, we're going to have a mess. Just get your little flour on your fork there so that it doesn't do what it's doing to me here and stick to the fork. All right, and then we're going to turn it over and we're going to crimp the other side. That way both sides will have a good crimp on it, and hopefully it has a good seal on our pie. All right, and that's what it should look like when we're done. Let's give it a flip over here and make sure that we got everything crimped together here. All right, that looks good. So we're going to just take this one, put it over here in the plate until we're ready to start cooking. Now that's the size of pie that my grandma always made. She didn't make them little bitty pies. She made big old pies. So you knew you had something when you got your bite of it. Like I say, we'll do a couple of these and then I'll get the rest of them together and we'll get them ready for frying here in a few minutes. But just wanted you to be able to see basically what we're going to be looking like when we get everything done. All right, we just roll it out. And this dough is pretty stiff, and that's from the being in the refrigerator and that gluten and everything. But if you didn't put it in the refrigerator, you'd have an even harder time rolling it out than what we're having right now. So putting it in the refrigerator definitely does help. And you want to try to make your crust round if you can. I didn't do quite so well on that last one, but it'll be all right. At this point, we lost the audio somehow or another, so I'm going to try to just walk you through this. One of the things I did forget to tell you was when you were getting ready to crimp your dough, be sure to put a little bit of water right around the edges of your dough, then fold it over and then crimp it. That's something that I did forget to do, but I went back and redid it, and everything's going to be just perfectly fine. So we're getting ready to put these pies in the skillet. We've been heating it up. I've got it sitting on about a 5 as far as the temperature goes, and we're going to start it out at that. So we should be ready to put one of them in the pan in just a minute. All right, so now be real careful putting these into the skillet because that is some hot grease, and you can see it started bubbling instantly. And but that's going to make our dough just turn a golden brown. All right, we're going to be flipping it here. There we go. We just flipped it. As you can see, they are golden brown on the sides there. Now we're checking the other side. It's golden brown, so those two are just about ready to come up out of the grease. And I've got a plate over on the other side there that I've got some napkins on. That way that'll absorb the grease that's coming off the pies when we first take them out. And they're ready to come out now. They're golden brown on both sides. And so we're going to put them over here on the plate and let them drain just a little bit. And then we'll get a couple more in there going. Be careful when you're taking these out and when you're flipping them, because first thing I did was I threw grease all over the stove and all over myself. Luckily, I had the apron on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put a couple more in there. Still got our heat turned up at about a 5. As it did get hotter, I did turn the temperature down to a 4. So we should have a couple in there here in just a second. All right, and it won't take but just a minute or two on each side and they'll be good and golden brown as well. All right, y'all, so they are done now. We wound up getting 8 pies out of it. Cut this one in half because that's one I'm going to eat here in just a second. But they are beautiful. They smell delicious. And now it's time to taste test. All right, y'all, so let's see if Grandma would be proud. Here we go. I have to say, that's really, really close to my grandma's fried pies. Might be off just a hair, but it's so close. That is so good, guys. It's a process to make them, but I'm telling you, it is worth every minute that it takes to make them. So if y'all want to follow that recipe and you can get them to turn out like this, I think you'll be very, very happy. All right, y'all, I'm going to go eat the rest of this. Thank y'all for watching. We sure do appreciate it. And hope everybody has a good day, and we'll see you probably next week.